Welcome to the Filmed Live Musicals podcast, a podcast about stage musicals that have been legally filmed and publicly distributed. The Filmed Live Musicals website contains information on nearly 200 musicals that have been captured live. Check it out at filmedlivemusicals.com. And now, on with the show. Welcome to episode 26 of the Filmed Live Musicals podcast. I'm your host, Luisa Lyons, and my guests this week are Liza, Magtoto, and Maribel Legarda, writer and director of the longest-running Pinoy jukebox musical, Rak of Aegis. The musical first opened in 2014, and the seventh season was filmed in 2019 and streamed around the world just this past year. Welcome, Liza and Maribel.
Hi, Luisa. Thanks
for
for having
having
us.
us.
My pleasure. So, to start off with, what made you fall in love with musical theater?
Maribel.
No, me, I've always loved music. So I think that music and comedy are two very good styles for Filipinos. They enjoy that so much. So, in the process of making plays, whether I was doing children's theater or whatever, I always had music. And I really love music. And it's the theater, so you can stylize anything and everything. And I think sometimes in one song, it can embody the whole message that you want to say, the whole emotion. So that's why I fell in love with musical theater.
And Liza?
Yeah. I grew up watching musicals, movies that are musicals, and I grew to love them. They're so delightful. so, and I love watching them. And my dad would have free tickets to some of the musicals that were being shown here, so I would get to watch a few. Yeah, like what Maribel said, music is like another language that is added to the play. And if words can pierce the heart, I think music kind of pierces even deeper, like the soul. So and that's why it adds a lot of meaning to whatever performance we have. So I love it. I love music.
Yeah.
What musicals were playing in the Philippines?
Uh,
Yeah.
During our generation, I was very much, I have to be honest, I was very much exposed to more Broadway musicals. So my favorite musical would be, of course, this will really age me, no? Pippin, Hair, Jesus Christ Superstar. They're kind of like my favorite musicals. Of course, later on, Les Mis, Miss Saigon, and stuff like that. That's more or less my the Broadway musical background that I grew up with. And then of course there were also our zarzuelas. We had to grow up. So a zarzuela is a musical tradition that came from Spain. No? Mostly about love story. Sometimes it's love story and about revolution. So Walang Sugat was what is the English translation of that? No more pain,
So
no
it's like a
wound.
wound.
It sounds terrible.
It's like a
Not
wound.
wound, not wounded. It's a very classic Transuela. And if you were in school, you would have to watch that. That's one of the things that you would have to do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember watching Fiddler on the Roof by another theater company here, and I guess when we had chance to get out of the country, that's when we were able to watch other plays and other musicals, but mostly film musicals, I guess that, and or musicals that were done into film, like West Side Story, and those are the things that we were exposed to. Sound of Music,
Yeah, of course.
of course.
Sound of Music, my goodness. I
Yeah,
The
stand by
golden
Sound
age.
of Music.
yeah.
Yes, you can tell how old we are. Kakahiya.
I grew up with it
Tag
too.
along. You can oh no. Yeah, but Fiddler on the Roof really is kind of vivid to me still. Yeah.
Mm. It's funny, as Lisa and I talked about earlier, we chatted before were recording. My grandparents were born in Manila, and I know they grew up listening to and performing in zarzuelas and had a deep love of musical theater too. And I grew up
Wow.
watching Fiddler in the Roof and Sound of Music in their living room. So it feels like very full circle for me. It's very beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, how you get educated with musicals during that time, a
Yeah, that's
classics.
right. Yeah, absolutely. The golden age brought to us by VHS.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
And something really powerful, which is something we'll get into a little bit later, about putting musicals on film, that they can transcend world barriers. It's not just a street in New York. It's these musicals have been beloved and enjoyed by people on every continent all around the
Mm,
world. And I think that's something, like Lisa was saying, the power of music to not just touch the heart but touch the soul, and it's something that is universal, a universal language.
yes,
Yeah.
agree.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So what led to both of your involvement with PETA, and can you tell us what PETA is?
Okay, gosh. PETA was founded when? I just 1967.
67.
Tama ba ako? I
Yeah.
keep on forgetting that date. I don't know why. Yeah, and it's
1967.
1967. So it stands for Philippine Educational Theater Association. Our theater was in the open air in the Raja Sulaiman Theater in Fort Santiago, which is really it's an old fort, which was the first parang settlement that the Spanish set up in Manila, and that's where our theater grew from, and it was founded by Cecilia Dote Alvarez, and it's at the time its main thing was to be able to create original Filipino plays because us, we were a colony of America. Therefore, what was happening was theater was more like English theater in the universities, and then popular theater in the community. So when she actually came, she studied in the States. Then she came from her masteral thesis, and her thesis was about that to set up a national theater movement in the Philippines, writing in Filipino, and that's how it all started. And then from there, she didn't stay so long because she was an anti-Marcos activist, and so she left in less than 10 years. I always say I've been in PETA longer than the founders. Yeah, and then so when she left to the young student, she really likes working with young people. They just took up the cudgels and tried to continue, and that baton has been passed on from the different generations. So we're 54. Ilan taon na tayo? 54
Yeah,
plus year.
54.
Yeah. So we're old. And so from and then when we were staying at Fort Santiago, it became really very difficult because
It's open air.
it's
It's like the ruins and open air.
yeah. So we thought we needed a permanent home because we don't own that. Obviously, that's a national site, national, and so we decided to put up our own theater. And when was that?
20
2007, I think.
oh,
Yeah,
2006, I
yeah,
think.
something
Yeah.
like that. We finally put up our own theater in Quezon City, and that's the Black Box Theater where we filmed Rak of Aegis. Yeah, and then so that theater is ours, and it's got a black box theater, a studio, two classrooms, a library, and office space, and some other neutral spaces which we use for rehearsals or exhibits or whatever. And yeah, we've been there since then.
How many seats is the theater?
Maximum like about 420, something like that. Yeah, but it's basically a black box. I mean, what was beautiful about our theater was because it was multi-spaced. So it was designed by national artist Leandro Locsin. So it's like we call it the thrust or the E stage. So it wasn't just down. We would also from the walls, the ancient walls, or outside in the lobby, we would be performing, creating noises or whatever, and then sort of like sense around it. Sometimes this is not during our time, Palisa. During Cecil Guidote's time, there's a church there, the Manila Cathedral, and part of the play was she would make those cathedral bells ring. Yeah, or she would
Yeah.
have horses, galloping. And in one play we had in Minsan Isang Gamu-Gamu, an anti-US based play. We really had a pig on stage, and while the show was running, the pig was getting bigger. So we it's a beautiful stone stage. No, it's really a beautiful place. I will always miss it dearly because
Yeah.
and it's multi-level, because at that time when she was studying in the States, that's exactly what was going on, diba? We were breaking this sort of fourth wall, multi-staging, multi-spaces, and that tradition we really brought, was something that formed Beta's aesthetics. And And the black box, we really missed it a lot. And in Rock of Ages, I think consciously or unconsciously, it was my tribute to the space because it's a pity, of course, you in a camera you can't see the full shot, no? And we don't have full shots or top shots of the, but it's really quite layered. So if sometimes you see the audiences, they're not quite looking at the lead who's talking because they're looking at other elements in the space because it's quite, they're we wanted to create a community, and so in a community so many things are happening, and that's what we were trying to sort of achieve.
And
Yun.
I think the capture definitely captures that. You can see how multi-layered the set is and how gorgeous it is, how the different levels of it. And what I love about the capture too is being able to see the audience and their reactions to things, and that they are looking in different places, and that the camera allows that, which is really amazing, given especially that it's an archival recording. That's
Yeah,
it's no mean feat. So how did you become involved with PETA?
Lisa, ikaw naman.
Me initially it was my sister, Bing, who sort of dragged me. No, no, she would invite me to watch their plays, and then I grew to love the kind of plays that I saw at Fort Santiago, which was in the ruins, and it was so different from what I would see before, and I love the relevance of the theater that PETA brought and brings. And so later, the guys in PETA would always ask me to, oh, you know how to play the guitar? Okay, can you play the guitar for this scene or whatever? So I would go during rehearsal and then go to the actual place and be one of the music pool members. And then later on, I said, oh, heck, I'm gonna join PETA already. I mean, I'm practically a member.
There every
So
day.
yeah, I was there all the time. So I joined PETA, and although I wasn't writing yet, in PETA we do all sorts of things. We become stage managers and props people, costumes, whatever, acting. Then later, when I had the courage to write, then that's when I wrote.
What before
That's
we get to Maribel, what gave you the courage to write?
Oh my God. I think when PETA would give me projects and, slowly, Maribel would always get me for like short, what do you call this, audiovisual presentations. I think that sort of built uh, confidence slowly. And then I would join some other writers groups, and we used to have a playwrights development program in PETA where we would have every other Sunday meetings, and people would just read their plays and I would just listen, and then later it sort of inspired me also to write. And then with PETA's projects, I didn't get the big projects right away. Sort of warmed up first, and then when I finally did, of course, PETA always has this what we call PETA night, which is like
a, crit-
a
a
bloodbath,
major critics night.
a major critics night, and that sort of humbles you.
Yeah,
It
you have to be strong
really,
of heart to survive that.
yeah, yes,
It can be
and you
cruel.
learn a lot. And fortunately, because we're very collaborative, Maribel and I would always, we'd have like post mortem talks about a play, and she would guide me in how it could further be improved, and so with other directors as well.
Uh,
Yeah, so
that's
that's the
beautiful. You
journey
had
of
your own
myself,
like
of my
internship.
self confidence.
Yeah, I think that was what was really nice. In the early years, we would have different what we call pools. So there would be
Yeah,
like a writer's pool, there would be like a director's pool, there would be a movement pool, and then we were just gathered. I guess it's interests, and sort of like train ourselves and have all that. And we were. It's interesting if you see the way. Writing was developed in PETA, no? From very like improvisational, sort of collaborative, sort of a scene will come in, it's just a scenario, and you have to sort of develop it there, to a different, just group the actors and the directors working on a script, to slowly the writers wanting to have their own voices that is
voice.
clearly theirs, and that developed with the playwriting pool that PETA had and stuff like that. So it's really been, maybe because we're fortunate to be old, in the sense that it really journeyed in terms of its aesthetics during that time, whether it was, writing, or we also had like a music pool and stuff like that. But until finally we started really having writers, like I mean, so we're commissioned, but they're all generally in-house. Our writers are in-house, so they're really company members as well. Before, you could just be in PETA because your boyfriend or your girlfriend's there, and then, oh, come here, you're okay, join. That was the way. It's like Lisa's, then eventually it became more formalizing recruiting, because we have what we call membership, and we call our members artist teachers. So we have to train them not only to be performers or directors or whatever, but and writers, but also teachers. We also have a very we do a lot of workshops, and that's one very important program. That's like the spine of PETA. It's basically teaching and performance.
Mm.
Yes.
Oh, that is such a
Yeah,
cool organization. That's like it's so multifaceted. It's like the performance is kind of the tip of the iceberg, and then there's this whole program behind it.
yeah, yeah. It's quite. It has a huge ecosystem inside it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I want to
Yes,
come back to
Lisa.
those workshops, but Maribel, how did you become involved?
Um, I well, when I was grade three, wow, long story. My teacher was a children's theater teacher of PETA, and so she started teaching in my school, and I really loved. I didn't like going to school, but I loved going to my theater class, and that's when I fell in love with that. And her name is Mila Donato, and then she teaches in Hawaii now, and she brought us to Fort Santiago, and it was must have been the early years of, maybe that was like, I was grade three, so how old was I? Anyway, let's not go there. But those early years. And then I fell in love with that place, with that old, fort, with the Piedra story. I just had promised myself I would join. And I was like, what, 8 years old at that time? And then years later, when in 1978, I was summer college, I joined the PETA workshop. So a lot of us were really recruited through the workshops. And I finally joined. And then, well, basically, I haven't left since. So I kind of like grew up there. Divas. We really grew up
Yeah.
there, from students all the way to lovely adults. And yeah, and for me, I got a lot of my theater training, if not all, basically from actual practice in the company.
And
And we
now
also
you
train.
Oh, you go ahead.
We No. We also, because our membership comes from different. We're A lot of us don't have theater degrees. Most of us do not. So in house, we really do a lot of training, whether it's acting or directing or writing or whatever. We train internally because now we have to get the membership to a sort of, even level. So we do a lot of training inside the company.
So the training starts as like for school children, and then you kind of graduate into a adult program.
No, we have workshops.
I see.
That's, yeah, and then we and then for the and then we only recruit adults. So after the workshop, usually then every year PETA would open for membership, and that's how I joined in 1978. But like I said, previous to that, it's just like, hey, you're here, come, and then sort of became more formalized. But some of our members, kasi they will come from, like, they were children's theater in the summer, right? And then they became teens, so did teen theater, and then after teen theater, they would apply to join the company. So their history is quite, long. I started in adult in what we call theater arts one, so I was in college already when I went
Mm.
in.
And so the creation of Rock of Ages, I understand it's kind of two pronged. That it started as somewhat of a joke that the American jukebox musical Rock of Ages was playing in Manila.
Yes, yes. Um, was Yeah, it was, we always developed, when we moved into a little background na, so that when we moved into the theater center, we knew that we had to really also start producing works that would also be commercially viable. And one of the forms that are really commercially viable in the Philippines, or maybe in the world, is actually the musical. Since I loved it, plus, Lisa and I both love music, and we both love comedy. I mean, even our work in our women's theater always had music and always had comedy, even if we were dealing with such dark themes. So, I mean, I think it's like a carryover. So I'm really always in the watch for what new musical to do. And in 2013, Mike Solomon, at the time, he was, who will become our musical director, made a joke if Atlantis is doing Rock of Ages, why don't we do Rock of Ages? And I, Bing, it just clicked in my head. Yes, we will. He was so surprised actually because I was just kidding. Well, I'm not. We're doing it. PETA has that was our first jukebox musical because we do mostly original music, as we also have in-house composer, arrangers, musical directors. So we wanted to try a few months that same year, I think 2013, another group had done another jukebox musical, Sugar Free's music, and it also did very well. So seeing that, I said, well, hey, why not try it? We'd never done it. And then so when Mike, was kidding around with that, I said, why not? Aegis being Aegis, which is a very famous band in the Philippines that, you know, nobody sings karaoke and doesn't sing their music. Said, why not? So I commissioned Lisa. Lisa and I have been working together in, you know, we she grew up as a writer and I grew up as a director, basically together through all the difficult PETA nights. So yeah, and then so from there, I think Lisa should tell the story of her script.
Yeah, because Aegis, I wasn't that familiar with all the songs of Aegis, but when I started listening, oh, so this is their song, and they have a different sound. Of course you've already heard of it. I mean, you already heard the songs in Rock of Aegis, and I was thinking that, hey, this is gonna work because they have a different sound. It's not the usual Disney like kind of music,
Mm,
you know. So, and then fortunately, when I kept listening to one of their songs, "Basang Basa sa Ulan," which is like "Drenched in the Rain," um, it sort of reminded me of one of the workshops that PETA did. It was like a psychosocial workshop in Laguna, south of Manila, and it was sometime after Ondoy, the typhoon, and when we went to the place, there was still flood, and it was like 2 months after the typhoon, and it was still flooding there. And they had a shoe industry that was falling apart and all that. So and I got to talk with some of the women there, the mothers, and then they were sort of blaming one of the subdivisions as part probably the cause of the flood, you know. And I just remembered all of these and said, why not? You know, maybe this can be this can be the story. I mean, taking off from that song, Basang Basa sa Ulan, and and then sort of try to see how other songs can fit into the story. We Fortunately, Aegis agreed to make us to tweak some of the lyrics and to take some of the songs out of context. It's a song about being jilted or being abandoned by a lover or something, and but we turned it into a song about missing the flood. Stuff like those. So and of course, because being like what Maribel said, we're into comedy. We always try to find what could be funny in the situations, what and we also didn't try to limit ourselves into it's just a love story, because PETA being PETA, we always try to see it in a context. We're not in a fishbowl bowl. Fishbowl. We're not in an aquarium. So
Ayun, easier. A, not B.
anyway, no, but so we try to expand the story as well.
And I
Yeah,
think that's
that I
what
think
makes
There.
the show so powerful is that it's grounded in truth. And I love that Aegis gave you permission to change the lyrics because it it doesn't feel like a jukebox musical. And I wasn't familiar with their music before the seeing this show. And so for me, I was able to like it just felt like a rock musical to me. And so I'm curious what it's for someone who did grow up with their music or who is familiar with their music, if the experience would be different.
I think a lot of people went to watch the show initially because they thought I remember I'll never forget this anecdote. Some lady watch after act one. She stepped outside and then she asked, I think one of the ushers or whatever, oh, I'm really enjoying the show, when did the Aegis come out? And then and people thinking that the Aegis band would come out, and it says, no, 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 they're not gonna sing here. We're using the music of the Aegis band. And I think that was what was really interesting, and at the same time really felt good, was because people who would either, Filipinos are still so colonial, no? They would rather go watch Broadway produced in Manila, or companies coming in from abroad, than, but that really started this whole interest also. After that, there were so many people who started producing jukebox musical of local music, right? So Apo, and then Huling El Bimbo, and it's because people started watching it because they realized they could relate. So they went there first for the music, and then they were so surprised to say, hey, look, we were able to tell our stories, and we were able to tell it in a joyful manner, and at the same time it was able to capture Filipino, the Pinoyness of it all, right, with I think a universal theme still, right.
Mm.
And Asian music, everybody just looks at it as, or you go to the karaoke if you're brokenhearted, sing your heart out there and belt it in how many decibels, and then you realized, oh my God, you were able to manage to expand it, no, like what Lisa said. I think it was very clear on the onset. We said no fishbowl. Okay, take it out, because the usual tendency is that since it's a love song, it's only about an, individuals, love between people. So, like, how about we make it love of the community, love of something larger than just the personal? And that, I think, was the experiment that we were trying to do. I mean, initially during Peta Night, remember, Lisa, I remember somebody said,
Yeah,
isn't it gonna be weird when they sing to the music, to the water, na I'm going to miss you, don't leave me, right? And because
yeah,
it was scary, right? Because I think, yeah, they
right,
might laugh, but they might also get the irony of that, right? The things that we
right,
miss. So just love what love, but it's just, I mean, it was ironic because they wanted that water out, but at that moment they needed it, they wanted to keep it. But that's the whole struggle that we have, that conflict of how we choose and what good, bad, the choices that we make, not only for ourselves, but even greater in the community,
with the
in the sense of
community,
the community, right? Which is a constant struggle in the Philippines, as you can see.
right,
It's so, or not in the Philippines, in the world right now. There's so much conflict, whether it's race or poverty or whatever, diba? And it's that kind of push and pull. And I think I just want to say we were also fortunate that we had so many seasons to try to fix it, right? Because,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Maribel doesn't want people to be, complacent.
no, you have to be, every run is a stressful
She wants,
run, take
she
note.
wants them to be on their toes. So every season we would add a song or add
Yeah,
a,
yeah. And
Oh,
we would
wow.
edit, like, after the first run, of course we saw, this is problematic or it's too long, so Lisa edit, why can't we use this song, let's put this new song. So like every season we would add songs, not naman every, but especially the first three, no, the first three,
yeah. Mm.
we would add a new song, the Mary Jane one that came only in season 3, I
No,
think.
no, no.
Season,
That was on the first.
even in the very first ba.
No, no. The one that came in on the second was Sayang na
Ayan,
Sayang.
sayang na sayang, the mom song, and in the end, Mary Jane's song in Act 2. So we would do stuff like that, or, I think because we were doing it so regularly, I didn't want to get so bored, and I didn't want to be a cookie cutter. I know, like in Broadway, because as a reference to, I mean, everybody's supposed to act the same way, and you know what I mean. So people, when they go, it's just the same, diba? I just felt like that wasn't who we were, and that's one of the reasons why you have the alternates. If you're gonna, you know, allow the alternates to also put in their own flavor. Like in the beginning, the two tolits, ever since the one that you saw, he has an alternate. I don't even really call them alternates. They all the same, and I couldn't decide which the two of them when we casted. So I just said no, just get both of them. They're both good. What the hell, right?
Can
Um,
every
and
director and casting director hear that, please?
no, I mean, I know a lot of directors don't like it because it's work. It's like I have to rehearse a play twice, because I will do the. I mean, it's not like in the States. I think the director only directs the first cast, right? Or doesn't, and then the second cast somebody else. I don't. I
The
have to do
associate will come
both.
in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do both, especially second, third, fourth. By the later part, I was like, give me an assistant director. I'm dying here. But I would still go and check. And if it wasn't working, I would still do the scene work. So I'd still cast for the new alternates and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's work, but at the same time, on the practical side, it was also good for marketing. So many people came to watch it
Yeah.
because they wanted to see all the different alternates. I mean, there's a guy who watched it 21 times. I kid you not.
Wow.
'Cause
21 times, huh?
you always paid
And
for
he
every
paid
show.
every show.
They're
And
the
he didn't
audience
get the
members we love.
cheap ticket. Yeah. And he didn't.
Yes.
So, and it's so that's why it became like a community, even the audience. I think it became like a community if the barangay, the actors themselves also became a community. Because remember, usually when you open a show, it's not the first cast who does we have kept pretty much all our original cast. But because over time they also got famous, so we've started adding alternates and stuff like that. But even the actors became a barangay because they started to grow. We started, we have under 20 actors. We only have an ensemble of like about 10 or something like that, and about 6 or 7. It's under 20 because we can't afford to have more than 20 actors inside our 400 seater, especially, So the ensemble is like they're in and out, they're just constantly changing costumes and being the different characters. But so later on we became 40, not because but because there were so many alternates already and stuff like that. And it's a bit of a nightmare. I can understand why directors don't want to do it. It has its upside, I think. Yeah, I'm
Wow.
talking
Oh
too
my
much.
goodness. This is so powerful. And I'm thinking about when you mentioned the founder earlier, Cecilia, what's her last name?
Gidote Alvarez,
When
that's
the
her.
I love I love the fact that so much of this is female driven. I think there's something really powerful in that. And like that her vision of a Filipino theater that told Filipino stories and used Filipino music. And this is like a culmination of all of that. And I know it was kind of born out of necessity, like wanting to create a commercial entity, but it feels like a culmination of her vision almost.
Yeah, I think so. She was also very happy when she watched it, and I was really, really the Balisa. When she watched it,
Yeah.
she was really so happy when she watched it
Yeah.
because it sort of married our, our objectives of content with entertainment, and at the same time, really fleshing out the whole culture part of it and aesthetic, whether musically or So it's I think that was a good thing. Maybe because we had so many water images, and water is a good luck image for the Asians.
And
So
also, I
much
love
water.
that Aegis is a female-driven band. That it was three sisters
Yeah.
are started it. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. No, the three singers are the sunot, di ba, Lisa?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the composer is actually he's passed away.
Yeah.
Celso Abenoja. He was a composer, and it's really every time we do the play, and some people love it. I'm always hoping that from he's watching in heaven because I think when he passed, he didn't feel acknowledged, and
Yeah.
so now their music is really and you know Aegis is still was traveling and singing abroad. Pre-pandemic, they were still, the OFWs love them. All social classes sing their song. They're the what do you call it? Guilty pleasure bantawag doon, secret. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, just like it's been a blessing, and also I think the world is so small. When we decided to do Aegis, our company manager, her classmate is the daughter of the owner of the band. So it was so easy for her to call and say, "Can we meet up with your parents to discuss it?" So we went there. Like 10 minutes into the conversation, they said, "Sure, take the music," and they didn't. You know what I mean? They didn't say, "Oh, you can't do this or you can't do that," because I heard that in others they were given limitations. The composers, as they just said, they entrusted us the music, and for that I will forever be grateful to them. Actually,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very rare, quite amazing. You mentioned earlier the water. How early on did you decide to have water on stage?
Lisa
Can
is
I,
all Lisa's fault.
can I just say that? Can I just say that when I gave Maribel the scenario, she was a really it's flood. You know, this
And
is one of
rain.
her initial reaction. And it's well, we can always, just pretend that there's water there. No, it will not work if there is no water.
Yeah.
That's what she said. So, and she was even willing to spend for it if the company couldn't.
Yeah, because we couldn't afford it. I mean, I said, how are we gonna do this? We're not talking about we will. It's like 200 gallons of water. We have a swimming pool there in that center, right? And yeah, and we have to change that water all the time, and we have to pay for that. And then at the time when we started, of course, I mean, PETA's not a rich company. Just because we have a building, that doesn't say we have money. We only generate enough money to keep the work going, and just pay the staff. It's so and they didn't want to, like, no, why will we spend so much money? We didn't know if it was going to work or not. Thank God for Rene Cobar, our TD, because he saw me looking so sad. And somebody even said, why did you just put plastic there or something? No! So I was like sitting down, almost willing to give it up. And then he says, you want water? I'll give you water. And he did. He not only gave us a flood, he also gave us rain. So I shan't say no to that. Like, hello. I think people were just so amazed that that little space could produce so much, magic, and with really, really, really very I mean, compared to other people's budgets, our budgets were really small. I mean, yeah. So it was really some. So it's all Lisa's fault. I remember when I read it, talagang, it took me quite some time to sort of absorb the whole rain thing and water, and I said, oh my god, how are we gonna do this? So I mean, I
But
wish.
we recycle water, so it's
It's
okay.
okay about water. Anyway, it's good fortune. I wish we had taken the shot of the outside where you have these gallons of water lined up. And as the seasons went on, the pool became bigger, so there's more water, and that's manually pumped in and out, right? And by this little guy on tech. One time I thought he fell into the I mean, the gallon is as tall as the guy who's pumping it, right? So it's and then and the dancers had to learn to grand jeté over to the other side, right? Because you'll have to walk. You can't always walk around to that part. So we were like regulars in the emergency room because we had a lot of actors falling into that thingy, but they finally got the hang of it. So, and if you look at it, if you really come in the theater, I remember somebody wrote when they saw it, they said, "What the hell is this set?" Because it's like it's got trash. I mean, I remember our president CB Garucci. She told me, "Maribel, please, it's so gross. Lessen the trash." And I said, "But see, it's supposed to be gross." But still, she was like, but I guess in the end, it worked. It made its point. But yeah, it was it was a it was an adventure to do it, because you discovered it over time, actually, and we are so fortunate to have been able to do the show so many times for us to see, because you don't have the benefit of, like, in the stage, you develop it over regional drama, or you're just workshopping it, like. So Lisa wrote that was 2013. I
Yeah,
told her, she wrote it. I held onto the script for 3 months because I didn't know what the hell with water and the jolly. And then finally I said, okay, come on, let's do this. So under mga 6 months, right, to develop the script,
around, yeah,
about
yeah,
six
because we
months.
opened in
Yeah,
January 2014, right?
yeah. So that's why we were still rewriting stuff.
That week, yeah,
Yeah, I think Peta Night was Friday, or was it Saturday, right? No, Friday. It was Peta Night.
Friday,
So we got
yeah,
really, feedback that was, So we were,
devastating.
yeah, Lisa was rewriting on Sunday. On Monday, she sent the pages, and then my actors with the long face were like, "Are you serious? We're opening on Thursday." I'm serious. Come on, memorize.
Yeah. And then you're
So
rehearsing
yeah,
two sets of casts to
yes, yes. So yeah,
Wow.
it was really stressful. But when we opened, after opening day, palang, we knew, okay, this was gonna be okay. Not perfect, but it was gonna be
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
we were surprised actually well, for me, when I entered the theater, I was the building. I was hearing laughter, and I wasn't sure if it was coming from the play. So so when I heard that, oh, they're laughing, oh, it's working.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be a comedy. So your greatest fear when you're doing a comedy is that they won't
They won't
laugh.
laugh.
But they did.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so 7 seasons later, jump ahead to 2019. What made you decide to, even for archival purposes, film the last season or the seventh season? I won't call it the last because I have a feeling it will come back. But
um, sige. We always document our last weekend, which is so difficult because we had so many alternates already. So we had to pick which one because we can't really afford. We don't really have a huge budget, so it's basically documentation. And that's the reason because we really document our shows. We even before we were already being told why don't you document it well and then put it online. Pre-pandemic, people, we just really never had well, the time because we have a lot of projects. PETA isn't just about performing. We have a children's project. We have a school. We have Ling Up Scening, which is the psychosocial. So people are really, really multitasking already. So that was really basically for our archives. And yeah, that's basically why we recorded it without any intention. This, like I said earlier, I always wanted the show to tour. We were already being asked by people in the states and whatever, so that if we could tour it. And it's just that, of course, when people see the number of people and then they see the water and they see the, it's been so difficult. But now we've put it on air, so hey, I guess online rather. Now people get to watch it. But we
Mm.
worked on it. We sort of digitally remastered it. We edited. We did a lot of work on it and tried our best because I also didn't I was so afraid that people will see it and not appreciate it because of the quality of the way it was shot. That was my greatest fear, that it won't capture the way it is. But of course, it's recorded, so it's not live, so that's a given. But even it's in Inception, we always you know the audience was always wanting to be drawn in. Like that's why in Act Two we have the Bahajos. When we said we didn't have actors to do the community. Remember, Lisa? That was already
Yeah.
Lisa's script, and then I said, because we're gonna get the audience so that they can feel the space, right? And then the Bahajos and everything developed, and sige, I remember I made them improvise. Oh, if you were gonna sell this place, you have to the people who perform think of something to do, so all of a sudden it becomes a circus. They became a circus, right, where people would come in and watch them, try to sing their hearts out in that flood, right, and stuff like that. So it was
Well,
there's an
She froze.
intention talaga of breaking that fourth wall and making the audience feel like they were part of it, or like voyeurs, they're watching these people's lives as they sat through the play.
That's why when you film it, it's not totally something that you capture, because the experience is different when you're there, and every night a different person comes
Mm.
on stage to drink that baha juice, which is the juice of the flood. So so it's it's an experience for the audience, really. So you take that away somehow
mm.
because of when you present the film, but at least somehow they see what the fuss is all about
Yeah.
about Rak of
But
Aegis.
interestingly, there were people who said that in a way, those who had seen it live already, they were also happy to see because there was things like close up. Because our theater isn't a
Yeah,
huge theater. I mean, it's a black box. It's quite so even our cheapest tickets are still close compared to, like, it's not a
right.
big hall. So it's really very intimate, and I think that intimacy really worked for the no. So in a way, the close up, there are also elements to shooting it that was also something that you could
Yes.
appreciate, now that you're seeing it online. I guess because
Mm.
we've gotten we've gotten really good feedback. I don't know if people are just kind, but I mean, even the quality, they were saying that it was fine, pretty, because really, like I said, that was truly my greatest fear.
I truly, as you know, I've watched a lot of filmed musicals, and I think it doesn't come across as an archival recording. Most archival
Mm,
recordings are like we stick one camera up the back and that's kind of it. And this has
mm.
like different angles and close-ups, and the quality is beautiful. So I don't think that's something you need to worry about at all.
Thank you, Lord. I prayed really.
And
Just
so
offering my
the
prayers.
the pandemic hit us in 2020, and obviously PETA had to close down. And did you decide to you decided to release the film as a fundraiser?
Yes, yes, that was what we've always been keeping Rock as one fundraiser. But last year, we already put three of our shows online, which is the Care Divas, 1896, and uh, One Tamad, which is our electoral voting play. So we already tested it then. That was like our exercise to prepare for us to understand, because we're also trying to understand the digital world and all this its own ecosystem, whatever. Yeah, so that was our practice. And then finally we decided that this year, because well, it's been over a year and a half, and we're still
Yeah.
not, and we're again, we're in ECQ again, and it's, not looking like it. So it's really problematic for us. So we said, okay, now is the time for us to put Rock, uh, online.
Yeah. So in the US, we have really strict rules with equity around releasing filmed theater, and like the compensation for actors and the musicians and the whole crew really. Are there similar rules in the Philippines?
In the Philippines, the people here don't. I don't think that usually the producing company will go through that, no, because really the for writers and actors, especially actors, yeah, they really don't get compensated. It's not just in the theater, even in television, even if it's their TV shows get shown in Cambodia or in South Africa. I don't think it's in their. But what we did, and what we do for since we've been putting it online, is we write to the actors, and then we tell them that there's a computation, but it's across the board, and we will give them that computation, and or would they like to, at least now the pandemic is not happening, would they like to give that back as a donation to the company? So it's their choice. So some people donated their fees back to PETA, and some people, got their fees, which I think is perfectly. I mean, I got my fee. It's okay. No, I mean, you know why? I'm sorry. I mean, it's just that it's never happened. You know what I mean? It's also a trip to have. Oh, you have royalties, and I mean, just the experience of that is like it's such a trip to do, and stuff like that. So we have that. We're really trying our best, naman, to compensate, uh, the creatives and the actors and everybody as much as we can, and yeah, and I think that's something, because we really inform them, and then and so it's for them to decide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's especially during what this past year
No.
and a half has been, that's really
Mm,
fair. Um
yeah.
After like the success of Rock of Ages, it's been extended. It will by the time this episode comes out, it will have already been streamed. But do you think you will continue to stream work in the future, even when we're kind of back to normal, inverted commas?
Yes, I think that is what this pandemic has taught us. We're really thinking of what works to move into the digital platform, and now to really make it happen. If before it was just, yeah, 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 we'll do it. Now I think we really have to get down to do it. So yes, we are thinking of what other to stream. Shall we create a new piece? So secret na. This, uh, um, yeah, we will. We have. It's a reality we have to face. I mean, I think, like, I keep on saying, I'm so old, so I don't want to do that digital stuff. I don't just want to do the live part. But I know that, the Pandora's box has been opened. We've seen the possibilities. We've seen that streaming is, gets to reach this huge number of
More.
audiences, diba? Of course, your fear, as I know, is that what happens to live, but we'll still be live, because that's where we develop the shows, right? I mean, it's different naman if you develop it talagang like a film, because that's one of the things that we've been asked to do, is consider is turning Rock into a movie, into
Mhm.
a series, into, and other shows that we've done in the past that have worked. So at the same time, it's exciting because there's new things to create, and to think about. So yeah, I mean, I just wish everybody would get vaccinated so we could back on the, because at
Tell
least in
me
this,
about it.
no, but in the states, you guys are right. You're going back to live is opening again, right?
Yeah, but it's curious what will happen in the fall because there's still a big chunk of the population that refuses to get vaccinated, and with the
Really?
variant,
Yeah,
it's a whole
I
thing.
know.
But you mentioned lots of people watching the stream. Are you able to share the numbers? How many people watched, or a kind of sense?
Right. I'm not privy to that right now. I think no, I'm sorry. I
On the
can't give
first
you the
weekend.
numbers. I don't know, Lisa, because I've been asking Leloy and no, I don't. I'm not privy to
Oh,
the numbers.
I only know about the first weekend, which is like 7,000. But those are the tickets, I think.
Yeah, that's not the
And
full
then you have to
picture.
multiply that to the number of people in the
Yeah,
household. So I don't know. I mean, there could be three in a house or five or,
Yeah.
so we don't know. Yeah.
I don't have the numbers right now. I think by next week we'll have it. But it like first, that's right. That's what marketing said. There were 7,000, but that's only in terms of the tickets sold. So we don't know how many people were watching. And we saw some pictures where there was like a whole community of them watching with several
Yeah, it's
screens.
like in a hotel lobby or something, right?
Yeah,
And that's
The
yeah,
quarantine.
extraordinary when you think of like your theater
Yeah,
was 450 people, and that's
yeah,
been th- th- more than 10 times that
yeah,
has watched
yeah,
it in
yeah.
one
and,
weekend.
and
It's really extraordinary.
and pre-pandemic, we always had problems with the traffic, and that's why people would not go to the theater because.
Parking,
But now, yeah,
traffic and parking. But now they just stay home and watch it.
yeah,
And that we can like stream all over the world. I mean, I
exactly.
think really that's one of the greatest strengths of this online thing. You can really reach audiences all over. I mean, you were able to see it, Louisa. I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, how did you find out about it? So it's, I can imagine everybody else or you and your mom watching at the same time. And how cool is that, right? You can
Yeah,
have a
like my
shared
mom is in
moment.
Sydney, I was in New
Yeah,
Jersey, and we, were able to tune in together and watch at the same time. And like, the full circle thing of, she was born in Manila and uh, spoke, well, she heard Tagalog speaking growing up, but doesn't speak it anymore. And it inspired her to maybe look into lessons again because
yeah.
hearing it was like, oh my goodness, it brought back all these memories. This has been so much fun. I have 5 questions that I ask all my guests. So Maribel, how about you go first, and then we'll trade off. And you already mentioned earlier your favorite musical was Pippin, Jesus Christ Superstar, and there was a third.
Company by Sod. I didn't
Mm,
mention it, but my favorite Lemis Company. I really love the music there. Last 5 years, Sweeney Todd.
I love all these choices.
Yeah,
Lisa,
Are you saying the film musicals
your
or
favorite
just the?
musical, just in a favorite musical in general.
Oh, uh, it's not far from Maribel's choices actually. Pippin, Les Mis, Into the Woods, Hamilton, Fiddler on the Roof. I think Jesus Christ
oo
Superstar also.
naman.
More
We can sing
mga
the whole thing, all
I know,
the whole
right?
book.
Yeah,
Anthem.
even Diamond Zero. Okay, Band's Visit. I love the
Oh.
Band's Visit. Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a favorite filmed live musical?
The only film live that I've seen, well, because I watched Pippin filmed. I didn't watch this live, so Pippin, Sweeney Todd was also good. I watched that all, but recently I saw during the pandemic they did last 5 years. Not the movie, huh? They filmed it inside an apartment. Did you watch that? That
Yes,
was
the
so.
um what's the company?
I
I'm
f-
blanking.
Is it,
I know which
is it
version you're
there?
talking about.
Yeah,
And it
it
was
was
like
there
on
in the
site in the
apartment.
apartment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful.
I thought that was really what a lovely creative challenge to do last 5 years in one space. And I really liked it. So I thought that was really cool. I watched it's not music, but it's a National Theater or Donmar. Jane Eyre. I don't know how do you pronounce
Mm.
that.
Oh yeah, that one is good.
Beautifully. beautifully shot. You know naman the way the Brits shoot. I remember telling me, hey, this is not like the National Theatre. I mean, if that's your standard, it's really no. So Jane Eyre was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Lisa?
Yeah, Into the Woods, I think, and Pippin would be my
Mm.
Pippin. I saw it in the 80s, I think.
Yeah. With Ben Vereen.
Yes, the original, of course. That's still the
Yes.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Beautiful. So
Yeah.
a filmed live musical, it's not exactly theater, it's not live theater like you said, and it's not exactly a movie musical. So what should we call it?
Digitized,
Digital play,
digitized
a
musical,
digital theater. Isn't that what it is? I think
musical on video.
digital music.
You already filmed live musicals. Sounds
Yeah,
okay.
I
I
wait,
think
thank you.
you've already captured it, girl.
Thank you, that means a
Yeah.
lot. Where do you stand on bootlegs?
Oops.
Oops. No, I understand. Well, I know that it will cut, earnings from people, but I kind of understand also people, especially those who cannot afford to watch it or those who are far away from it and but want to see it and really want to see it. So, I just wish it were more available in a more affordable rate
Yeah.
and, and well shot. Because the ones that I saw were really, oh my God, you can see black. And then it's suddenly the foot of the audience or the head
Shaky.
or whatever.
No, but
Shaky.
if it's badly shot, you'll still want to see it. I mean, if I get a chance to go
Yes,
to your, I mean, I'd still want to see. There's only one bootleg I've ever seen, which is Book of Mormons, and that wasn't even that bad. But I would, am I gonna get in trouble for you? No, but I would still go watch it because I mean, hey, who wants to? I got a little dizzy there, but but if you don't have a chance to go there, or you get a sense of the
yeah,
play, I think, and that's it. But of course, Sana know, right? Like it's like in our announcement. I don't know if in the opening during the color bars, Mike Solomon goes into and oops, don't pirate this because
don't pirate
we know
it.
that that was the problems. One of our fears when we put it up, when we put
Yeah.
Rock on online, that of course somebody would bootleg it. But I was reading in the Twitter and somebody said, "Hey, is there no bootleg copy of it?" So something like that. But nobody answered. It felt like he was really looking for a bootleg copy of it, or I don't know how because you
Yeah.
can't help it. That once it goes online, I mean, people are creative.
Someone
If they want to get, or you just shoot it, you know. I don't know if it has that automatic shutdown kind of thing when you shoot, because there's
Mm.
like that also. So yeah, it comes, I guess it comes with the territory, but I wish people wouldn't do it. But at the same time,
Yeah.
And like Lisa said,
Yeah.
hopefully making it more available and more
yeah,
accessible will cut down bootlegs. And it's, my hope that one day every show will be filmed. And it doesn't mean that it will be released straight away. There's like
Yeah.
um, what's the word I'm looking for? There's lots of considerations to be had in how you release it. So, is it going to be released when the show is closed, or is it only going to be
yeah,
released in certain markets? Like there's a lot of considerations to be had. And people were scared when they started doing cast recordings, doing cast albums. There was a fear that people wouldn't come see the actual show if they had access to the album. And like that is not true. It opens
yeah,
access to the show. And like you said, you've seen Book of Mormon, and now when you have the chance, you'll come see it in person. And I think
Mm.
that filmed musicals only feed that hunger for shows, and then people will always want the live in person experience
mm,
because nothing beats it. There is nothing like it.
yeah. There's really
Yeah,
nothing like live. It's
that's
a
right.
totally different communion with your audiences, and that
Yeah.
that high that you get when there's somebody there
Yeah.
reacting with you. You just cannot get that online. So yeah, I mean, I guess like anything that's new is always filled with fear because you don't know what it's going to bring you. In a way, I mean, good news, bad news. The pandemic has also brought us into discoveries such as this that yeah, you can put it online. It's not going to necessarily kill it. As a matter of fact, there are people who watch Rock who said, "We'll just when you go live, we're gonna watch it again because we want to experience that." So that's. I mean, I was like, "Oh, okay." So doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily end the
one
live.
of those. I'm sorry. One of those who tweeted was saying something like, well, he never saw it, but he watched it, and then it was well said, and towards the end he just said, "I'm gonna see this live
Yeah, yeah,
soon,"
yeah,
something like that. So
Yeah.
it sort of gave me goosebumps, and then wow, these people, they are looking forward to having theater again.
Mm,
yeah. It's really, I
absolutely.
think, a matter of cost and also technology. I mean, like when you have older people who, sana it's made more simpler. Like me, I'm an
Yeah.
IT dum dum, right? But like, I'm like, it's almost what will I press? And so how do you make it, at least not so expensive, but then at the same time also technically not so hard to access or not so
Mhm.
complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I
Yeah.
think that has the pandemic has shifted that too.
Yeah.
There's so many new companies out there that are making streaming much easier.
Yes.
Last couple of questions. What do you wish had been filmed? What stage shows?
Had been filmed.
Me, I'm sorry.
No, but Lisa, go ahead.
Ah, No, I don't know if there is, but Band's Visit, I'd like to see. I mean, I saw it live, but I'd like to have it a film version of
I
it.
think it's at the New York Public Library, but it's not one that's publicly, like, you have to go to the archives to watch it. You can't It's not available
Yes.
now.
I would like to see Jagged Little Pill because Jagged Little Pill, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Waitress because I like both the music and Hades Town.
Waitress is about to reopen on Broadway, and there are
Yeah,
very strong rumors that it's going to be
they're gonna be
filmed.
shot. Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
So fingers crossed. And finally, what would you like to see filmed in the future?
You mean Filipino musical or
Oh, any Filipino or any musical?
oh,
that's already shown? Obviously, I'd like to see Hades Town. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna be traveling anywhere soon, and I don't even think it's showing anymore. So I thought Hadestown looked really, really interesting.
It's
Does it
it's
have to
about
be
to
just an?
reopen. They just announced the
Oh
cast. Yeah, it's so
gosh, I want.
beautiful.
Yeah,
I
I
would love to see it again.
yeah. Well, I really want to watch it. I mean, this is not a musical, but I've seen it. But I'd really love to see it again, and I wish to other people. Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night because
Yeah.
oh
that's
yeah,
so
I
well
love it.
staged. I
Oh,
cried
wait,
when I watched it. I
The
was so
the National
envious.
Theatre did film it.
Did they?
I
But is
think
it on?
it
But
may
is it
even be on the
available?
National Theatre platform.
Oh, so
National
let me
Theatre
check
at
that
Home.
out.
that
Mm,
would be interesting to see. I mean, the way it was technically done.
Yeah, I really
I,
love the staging of Curious
I
Incident.
love that
So
too.
nice.
Yeah,
mm.
me too.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
Okay, well, I feel like I could talk to you for hours. This has been so much fun. Where can we find you online?
Uh,
Or where can we find PETA
pet,
online?
uh, Petas,
We're on Facebook, Peta Theater, also on Instagram and Twitter. What else? Um, are we on? Are we on Kumu or anything like that? I don't
no,
know.
not on
That's
Kumu yet.
the
But
only thing that I.
basically our Facebook page and our Twitter
Yes.
and Instagram.
I'll
We
make
also have a
sure to
website.
have links in the show notes. I'll put links to all of that. Thank you
Yes.
both
Yeah.
so much for joining me today, and congratulations on the wonderful success, very well deserved, of Rock of Ages.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us. Thank you.
Filmed Live Musicals makes musical theatre more accessible, brings joy, and creates a sense of connection for audiences around the world. With thanks to patrons Josh Brandon, Elliot Charles, Rachel Esteban, Mercedes Esteban Lyons, James T. Lane, Al Monaco, David Negrin, Jesse Rabinowitz and Brenda Goodman, David and Catherine Rabinowitz, and Beck Twist for being a part of spreading the love of musical theatre. If you would like to join, you can do so by becoming a Filmed Live Musicals patron. For as little as $3 a month, you'll receive early access to the Filmed Live Musicals podcast, early access to site content, and a weekly newsletter with info on upcoming streams. Visit patreon.com/musicals on screen to learn more. You can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks for listening.